We've just crossed the 500 name threshold in the Lalitā Sahasranāma, and that triggers a deep hardware diagnostic. The system is shifting its scan away from the upper body servers, the throat and the heart, and dropping down into the lower biological architecture. But before we move into those lower servers, the system has to safely close out the navel node. That requires fuel, specifically high-glycemic carbohydrates, or Guḍānna, jaggery rice. Biologically, you cannot run a thermal furnace on an empty stomach. The physical muscles need glycogen to fire. With the reactor properly fueled, the system officially hands over control. It logs a specific localized administrator, Lākinī, as the secure, sovereign governor of the navel and the physical flesh itself. If you look closely at the multiverse mother here, you'll see she is actively wielding a sugarcane stalk, the raw source of that high-density carbohydrate fuel required to power this thermal furnace. When that thermal furnace is properly fueled and governed, the entire physical hardware experiences a baseline state of health and vitality. The system absolutely needs that stability because the diagnostic is about to make a very steep descent. The scan plunges downward, leaving the solid, predictable thermal processing of the navel and dropping directly into the Svādhiṣṭhāna, or the Sacral Server. We are out of the fire and into the water. This server operates in an entirely different element. It's filled with volatile, shifting liquid data, representing the deep currents of the subconscious mind, hidden desires, latent reproductive energy, and buried traumas. Processing fluid dynamics involves infinite variables. Without an architectural upgrade, the sheer volume of unpredictable data overflows the buffer, causing the system to lock up under the weight of its own subconscious noise. In computer science, wondering fluid dynamics is exponentially more difficult than rendering solid objects. Water is chaotic, and calculating its constant movement requires an immense amount of processing power. To handle the massive, unpredictable load of subconscious programming, the logic controller upgrades to a quad-core processor, 4 synchronized phases. Simultaneously, the interface aesthetic shifts to Guḍānna. This yellow frequency acts as a visual anchor, stabilizing the turbulent liquid environment. With the processing power upgraded and the environment stabilized, the system deploys a highly aggressive anti-malware sweep, represented by the Shula or the 3-pronged weapon. This protocol has a very explicit target. It is deployed specifically to hunt down and forcefully delete deeply rooted subconscious fears and generational traumas hiding in the fluid data. Mastery of the subconscious relies on deploying superior processing architecture and aggressive security protocols to fully cleanse the liquid data. Once those subconscious fluids are cleansed and fully stabilized, the system achieves a specific operational state called ati-garvita, which translates to majestic or very proud. In most spiritual texts, pride is considered a fatal virus, but we have to distinguish between ego pride and system pride. The human ego is defensive. It's a localized terminal constantly boasting about its processing speed because it is terrified of its own hardware limitations. System pride is entirely different. It is absolute structural confidence. Think of a flawless billion-dollar enterprise server rack running at maximum efficiency. It doesn't boast. It exists in a state of quiet, unshakable majesty. When a spiritual engineer syncs with this node, they aren't infected with arrogance. They learn to navigate the simulation with the quiet majesty of a user who holds root access to the universe. A digital architecture still needs a physical chassis. Where exactly does the body store all of this massive, stabilized fluid energy? The 509th name, Medo-Nista, maps it directly. The sacral server resides in the metis, which is adipose tissue, or fat. Modern society runs an ego malware protocol regarding fat. We are programmed to hate it, attack it, and attempt to delete it from the system. The cultural programming looks at adipose tissue and misidentifies it as an error. The master architect views the hardware differently. In bioengineering terms, fat is your deep battery storage. It is the thermal insulation where the physical machine stores its long-term potential energy for survival. Look closely at this cross-section of a nerve cable. Fat creates myelin sheaths, the thick outer insulation wrapped around your nervous system. That insulation allows high-voltage electrical pulses to travel across the body instantly without short-circuiting. To finalize the sacral server diagnostic, the system lubricates the node with a thick, viscous, antimicrobial fuel, represented in the text as madhu or honey, to stabilize and sweeten the entire operation. The physical chassis is completely intentional. By giving the system the exact fuel it needs, upgrading the processor to handle deep subconscious currents, and honoring the body's deep battery storage, you build the unshakable structural confidence required to master the simulation.